안녕하세요, it's Michael, and for this video, I'm gonna be doing two book reviews on these two books. The first one is The Story of Gildong. I don't think this has like an original um, author, and I think it's one of those stories that has just been passed down in general. But this edition is translated by Min-Soo Kang. Then the second book is The Nine Cloud Dream by Man-Jung. This edition is translated by Heinz Insu Finkel. I don't really know that much about them. I'm going to them blind. This is actually part of the Readathon, which is a readathon that I am participating in. So the first book that I'm going to be reading is The Story of Gildong. But this book is incredibly short. It's technically a novella. I mean, it's like only 100 pages. So I'll just give y'all my final thoughts once I finish it. So yeah, let's go. Alright y'all, so I did finish The Story of Gildong. This is one of those stories where it's not exactly known who wrote it, but it is giving credit to Hyo Jung, okay? But it's still unknown, but this edition is translated by Min-Soo Kang. This overall I thought was, I thought it was fun. It was like a fun adventure type of novel. Now, this is basically about Gildong. If you were to basically compare it to like a very well-known Western story, and that would be Robin Hood, this I'm sure was the original, and then you know how word get trickled out and whatnot. So basically that's what it is. It's about Gildong, who was born son of the concubine of the king. So he wasn't technically like in succession, taking from the rich and giving to the poor type of situation. This was different from my what I expected it being Robin Hood, because it has like more magical elements, like a lot of magical and mythological elements, and I thought that was really cool. Now I let me talk about the translation, because this is very important for it. The translation I thought was pretty good. It toes the line, which I always enjoy, especially this type of stories. It toes the line between something that is very like archaic or like something more older world wise, but the language isn't as stilted. What Kang decides to do translation wise I thought was pretty good. The notes are really helpful. It actually brings a lot of context on how this story is very like how it's really important, it being like the first actual story written in Korean, essentially, because this I'll talk more about this in a minute, but this actually has like some a little bit of confusion in that regard. So there's that. Now, in regards to the way that he decides to translate it, it is told in a way as if like it has more of this like hero's journey. The way it's told, it feels very just like it's telling you what happened instead of like showing you. So it does take a little bit of a second to like get used to it. Overall, that was like a fun, quick, short story. If anything, I think I learned a lot more than I actually enjoyed like actually reading it. I think what I learned the most is more valuable in my opinion, because I actually learned a lot of things, and I thought it was like really cool learning about Gildong. And the next book I'm going to read is The Nine Cloud Dream by Man-Jung. Now this, I started on this already. I just read the introduction and the notes and whatnot. This I feel as though like it's going to be really good. Like it has more of that storytelling that I really enjoy. So yeah, look, it has photos, which is really cool. Well, there's a lot of notes here too. This had a lot of notes too, which was helpful. But this looks like it's gonna be helpful too. This puts really into perspective like of the importance of this novel, and how like even modern Korea views it now. And this reminds me a lot about do y'all listen to K-pop? Twice recently released, I love Twice, recently released their video More and More, and I was like, did they get inspiration from this? Because there are elements in here. First off, there's 9 members in there. And then in the beginning of the dance moves in the video, they formed this formation. I was like, it's so cool. Because when you're looking at that video from a Western perspective, it's very easy to interpret that and get the illusions of like Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden. They're in this box, right? And at the end of the way go watch the video. At the end of the video, they start to form like a they're like, instead of being in this box and being squared in and being told what like society deems them to be, and like they're in this world where it's like dreamy and colorful and like you're naive almost. And then when they go through that barrier, there's this moment where the dance also starts to branch out and they start forming lines instead of being like in this box and then in this square. And when I saw that, I thought that was so cool. But in regards to how like Western ideals, like my Western ideal, or like knowledge, I guess you could say, is imparted on that is really different on probably someone who is Korean would view it. Because this right here, look at this square. This is the dance move that that like they start off in this dance move, which is wow. Like I don't know. There's probably a video about that on the internet because I'm not Korean, so I wouldn't like get all the cultural references. But this story apparently is like really popular because there's even like K dramas and whatnot, which I didn't know. So I'm really excited to read what this is. Because even the introduction with like the references of like Buddhism and like how it connects even to like Chinese beliefs. I'm really excited to read this because I feel like so it's gonna be something like philosophical. Alright y'all, so I finally finished The Nine Cloud Dream by Man-Jung, translated by Heinz Insu Funkel. Overall, you know, I thought that was pretty good. This is those stories where like finding out the history about the novel itself was just as fascinating like as the story. This is a story about Xiao Yu, who is a monk. He is given a task, but during this task, he gets distracted by these fairies, and so as a punishment, he gets essentially reincarnated into this worldly, like materialistically worldly world. This is one of those stories where it has very deep philosophical layering into what it is saying, and that I really appreciate. First off, the translation is really, I really enjoyed the translation. It didn't feel stilted at all. The notes in the back were so helpful, so helpful. I always enjoy reading translated works where I'm going back and forth because like that means that I'm actually like I'm engaged. The story is engaging because I want to know like the cultural context and the history and whatnot. The thing though is this is one of those stories where because it is a little bit older, similar to Han Gildong, it is told as if someone is telling you the story instead of showing you. So in the involvement or reading wise, like it doesn't have that type of language, once again, like I mentioned earlier, that is not like kind of involvement, if that makes any sense. There are moments in here where it feels like if you were looking at it from like a plot wise, like structure of a plot wise, it seems very contrived, and it would just like seem very convenient like really convenient, like super convenient, like ultra convenient, like the way that problems are solved and whatnot. I also enjoyed the first half of the story versus the second half, and I felt as though the first half was like it felt more fun, if anything. Like the plot felt really fun, and there are, even though this is very even though this is like old text wise, some of the themes I thought were really interesting. Now I am not Buddhist, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't know that much about Buddhism. Really, what this book introduces and like mentions, I was like, oh, it made me think. If anything, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Especially the part where it's like, well, I don't think it's a spoiler because like you can kind of look this up and it'll tell you everything. But just the concept of like dreaming, I thought was like, oh, that is really cool. One thing that really surprised me about this was the bending of gender, because I thought that was really interesting because there are parts in here where I was like, oh, what is this saying? So I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Coming from this context during this time on how they approach gender and gender representation, like presenting wise, I thought I was like, oh, that's really interesting, like especially with the context of now. So I thought that was really like, oh, it made me think again, very philosophical. Well, there is, that's the thing about character development, because it's character development in a way that is about like learning, I guess you could say, if that makes any sense. It's character development because of what the character of what Xiaoyu essentially learns and whatnot. So that is interesting. I think this is one of those stories where I am really happy that I read it because it has such a cultural impact. Because now that I'm looking and like stepping back, this story is very influential in a lot of stories that I have like experienced before. I wouldn't recommend this to every reader. I would be very hesitant because it doesn't have that it doesn't have that readability. I'm gonna quote it, readability that like modern novels have. But I thought the translation was great. But overall, I did enjoy it. So yeah, if you read any of these two books, let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. Until then, I'll see you guys till next time. Bye.